Henry Cavill will not be returning as Superman. God of War is getting a live-action adaptation. Spider-Man 2 announces a release date. The internet is on fire. Let's talk about it. If you're new to the channel, this is Jose, also known as Tropical Joe, and this is the very first episode of the StubWatch, where I take you through every single piece of news in the pop culture landscape, and we talk about it like every other nerd should. Starting off with one of the biggest news of the entire year, James Gunn has officially announced that Henry Cavill is no longer DC's Superman. In a shocking turn of events, every DC fan knows that Henry Cavill announced he was going to be returning to the role of the Man of Steel back in October. Not only did the man himself post a picture and a video of him donning the suit back again and being super lovey-dovey with his fans, we saw him in the post-credit scene of the Black Adam movie. Because even though The Rock has done everything under the sun to prevent this from collapsing, his universe might be crashing and burning faster than expected. Sadly, over the past 48 hours, the plan to have Henry Cavill make his triumphant return as Superman has changed drastically. First off, we have James Gunn's tweets. Before we get into it, I have to say that I appreciate the fact that James Gunn is being super vocal about everything that's happening behind the closed doors at DC. However, he didn't have to start off with this fucking bombshell, papa. In a series of tweets and replies, he gave us the inside scoop at what they are trying to do in terms of the future of the DCU. The devil is in the details, so let me read this to you. Peter and I have a DC slate ready to go, which we couldn't be more over the moon about. We'll be able to share some exciting information about our first projects at the beginning of the new year. Among those in the slate is Superman. In the initial stages, our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life, so the character will not be played by Henry Cavill. Did your soul collapse as much as mine did reading that statement? Because homie, this is freaking insane. A few months ago, we were super excited to see what Henry Cavill could bring to this new version of Superman that was supposed to be drastically different to the one that we had seen before. He had stated publicly that he wanted Superman to have a different, more joyful tone, and this was going to be the stepping stone to that. After reading the tweets, here's my take on it. I sincerely believe that the critical and financial success of seeing the Batman in theaters in March with a young, up-and-coming Batman with Robert Pattinson's that fresh blood has motivated DC to think about restructuring the entire universe and hitting the big-ass reboot button right now. This leads you to multiple avenues, mainly just resetting the Superman storyline and going back into the younger, reporting, figuring out his powers Clark Kent. You can have your own personal opinions about that very detail, but the fact is, to me, we have seen the young Superman storyline quite enough times already. The origin story is beautiful, but we already have Smallville, we already have the live-action Tyler Hoechlin Superman, we've already seen it in the animated shows and the animated movies. We can get a more mature Superman in the books. With that said, if they do find the right casting, I guess it will be interesting, but I feel like Henry Cavill deserved better. The craziest thing is that he put out a statement after James Gunn made his official announcement on Twitter. Again, I'm going to read it to you because he deserves it. I have just had a meeting with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it's sad news, everyone. I will, after all, not be returning as Superman. After being told by the studio to announce my return back in October prior to their hire, this news isn't the easiest, but that's life. Changing of the guard is something that happens. I respect that. James and Peter have a universe to build. I wish them and all involved with the new universe the best of luck and the happiest of fortunes. Then he goes around to thanking the fans and letting people know that the values and the symbolism behind Superman is still very vibrant and will continue in the future. But still, this is insane. Henry Cavill committed to this role back in October after having a public fallout with Netflix over The Witcher. In case you are not aware, Henry Cavill is also not going to return for season 3 of The Witcher after having a fallout with the creative directors and the showrunners of the show. Everybody and their mama knows that Henry Cavill is a huge nerd and a stickler for being faithful to the lore, which I am a very big fan of. I love to see actors take into account the fact that there is source material that should be used as the basis to build any new adaptations on. So when the creative team behind The Witcher started to basically mock the source material through the second season of the show and not taking into account the books or the video games, Henry Cavill said, "Stop this or I am out." So what did Netflix do? Instead of sticking with the man that looks like Geralt, feels like Geralt, and wants to portray Geralt in the way that he was supposed to be, they want to hire Liam Hemsworth. Like, what the hell's happening? So in one fell swoop, in the span of just 1.5 months, we are losing Geralt of Rivia and Superman. With that said, we do have some slivers of hope and light. James Gunn also answered questions from the fans regarding the future of DC slated projects, which leads us to our second story, the rumors that Robert Pattinson might be added into the DCU. Within that specific set of cryptic replies, James Gunn directly addressed the rumors set by Variety insiders, stating that Robert Pattinson is going to be forcibly or not so forcibly introduced into the DCU as the Batman. So in typical James Gunn fashion, he says, yeah, this insider needs to get better sources because that is untrue. So the man has officially established two things. One, Henry Cavill will not be returning as Superman, and two, Robert Pattinson, at least for the time being, is still set to just play the Batman within the Matt Reeves universe. Will that eventually lead to him joining the DCU and becoming the Batman moving forward? We don't know. He also mentioned in previous tweets that he wants to keep working with Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck wants to direct, and James Gunn and Ben have had conversations in the books where they're discussing future projects together. We already know that the Flash movie is supposed to show multiple versions of the Batman in its runtime. One of them reportedly being Ben Affleck, who is supposed to come back into the role of the Batman one final time and then fix the clusterfuck that is the Flash in the best way that they can. All of these conflicting pieces of news lead me to one thing. DC's going to press the reboot button and collapse everything, but that leaves me with a sour taste in my mouth. We already had some amazing projects coming from the DC camp in the past 2 years, including but not limited to the Harley Quinn animated show, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and of course, The Batman. Multiple different storytelling styles, but still giving us a fresh look at some DC heroes that desperately needed a fresh start. Black Adam was not that good in my opinion, but what it did do is establish a new anti-hero that could set up some interesting scenarios between Shazam, Black Adam, and of course Henry Cavill Superman. The Rock was campaigning so damn hard over the past year and a half to make sure that the balance of power is going to get restructured. Now it's going to get restructured and possibly without him. I don't know what's going to happen with Superman. All we need to know is that we need to be on our toes because anything could collapse at any moment, just like Wonder Woman 3 did. Before we continue with the next story, let me know in the comments down below who you think should play the role of the Man of Steel. And please don't say Tom Holland. I've seen enough memes already. Now that we got Superman out of the way, it is time to cover the bombshell of the year. It is confirmed God of War is going to get its own live-action adaptation. In case you don't remember, Deadline reported back in March that Amazon was in talks with Sony to adapt the game franchise into a big-budget streaming TV show. At the time, we only knew the names of some of the producers. For example, Mark Fergus from The Expanse, Hawk Ostby from The Wheel of Fortune, and of course, Ralph Judkins. On December 14th, Amazon Prime Video officially tweeted out that that report is accurate. God of War is coming to TV. We also got a ton of saucy details regarding the actual structure of the show and a very bright piece of news that we're going to be talking about in just a second. First off, what is this show actually going to cover? According to Vernon Sanders, the head of Amazon Studios TV department, they said that God of War is a compelling, character-driven franchise that they think will captivate the global customers as much with its expansive and immersive worlds and rich storytelling. All that is trying to say is that they are working directly with Sony Santa Monica Studio to develop a story that is both entertaining and deeply rooted in the franchise's lore. Don't mind me if I'm a little bit skeptical considering that we also got Halo this year and it wasn't faithful to the lore at all, but this piece of news actually caught my eye. Cory Barlog, aka the creative director behind some of the original God of War games and the director of the 2018 God of War, officially revealed that he's going to be one of the executive producers on the show. Hell to the yes. One of the biggest gripes that I have with the recent trend of adaptations in Hollywood is that they have been appointing people that have not immersed themselves in the source material that they are adapting. Cory was an essential part of bringing Kratos back into the limelight, and I think he will do justice to Kratos' story on the TV screen. With that out of the way, we also got a preview into what the show is actually going to cover. The show's description reads as follows. When his beloved wife dies, Kratos sets off on a dangerous journey with his estranged son to spread her ashes from the highest peak, his wife's final wish. Kratos soon realizes the journey is an epic quest in disguise, one that will test the bonds between father and son and force Kratos to battle new gods and monsters for the fate of the world. Yes, we are covering the storyline from Norse mythology, aka starting with the 2018 God of War. Although admittedly I'm not completely thrilled because I wanted to see the full breadth of the Greek backstory be explored in epic fashion, I understand why they're doing this. The 2018 reboot of God of War served as a new tonal shift for the franchise. It allowed old players to be reintroduced to Kratos in a different light, and of course, bring newer players that weren't familiar with the original works into the God of War lore. The 2018 release broke records for PlayStation. It won Game of the Year. It is a true masterpiece, and I'm glad that we're at least using that as the base on which to build this house. On top of that, we know that this is going to keep happening. PlayStation is investing a ton of resources into many of its biggest IPs getting adaptations. We already saw Uncharted. We know we're getting a BioShock TV show or a movie. Ghost of Tsushima is getting a movie. Now God of War is getting a TV show. This is going to be the norm moving forward. On top of that, the main thing that we need to keep in mind is that PlayStation Studios, which is headed by Asad Kicilbash, is going to be working directly with the third-party studios in order to fully flesh out these characters in a way that is lore accurate. They recently said that God of War is one of PlayStation's most awarded video games, so we're excited to partner with Sony Pictures Television and Amazon Studios to bring our beloved franchise to fans and new audiences in a bold and authentic ways. So, what this leads me to believe is that they're trying to avoid Paramount Plus's attempt at Halo and actually give us something that both gamers and newcomers are going to enjoy. As long as it mirrors HBO's The Last of Us more than it does Halo, I'm gonna be happy, but let me know what you think about this piece of news in the comments as well. Finally, our last two big pieces of news are Spider-Man related, but they're still within the gaming universe. Over the past week, we saw multiple announcements related to Spider-Man both on the gaming side and on the movie side. Specifically, the release of the second trailer for Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, which sees Miles Morales being thrusted into a world where he sees all of the Spider-Man that has ever been alive. And of course, the Spider-Women. The main thing surrounding this trailer is that we saw a ton of cameos of possible Spider-Men that are going to be fleshed out within the movie universe, including some of the Spider-People that we have seen in the Insomniac Spider-Man universe, including but not limited to manga Spider-Man, Spider-Cop, and the advanced suit Spider-Man himself. So, did they do this simply to canonize the Insomniac Spider-Man universe within the Spider-Verse? I don't think so. I theorized this over a year ago. I think they're going to try to merge both universes and make sure that the concept of the Spider-Verse has its own separate continuum both in the games and in the movies. They are meant to be interconnected universes that work in tandem to each other. I think that will also extend to projects in the future like Madam Web. What this could mean is that the events that we see both in the Spider-Verse side and on the Insomniac Spider-Man 2 sequel, which is slated to come out next year, will have consequences on both universes simultaneously. I don't think this means that we are for sure going to see Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield return to their iconic roles as Spider-People, but people can dream. So now that we know that the video game Spider-People are going to be in the movieverse, we also have to cover the news that Spider-Man 2 is officially slated to come out in fall of 2023. Sony and Insomniac Studios have set a tentative date of fall 2023 for the release of this game. So what that means is that in typical Sony fashion, I'm expecting some delays. Don't expect this to come out to at least winter of 2023 or spring of 2024. What this also seems to tell me is the fact that we might be getting a trailer for Spider-Man 2 very, very soon. It can't be a coincidence that they reveal that the Insomniac Spider-Man is in the movie Spider-Verse and then not give us anything to munch on when it comes to the Spider-Man 2 release. With that said, that is all that I wanted to cover right now. We're going to be covering the Pokemon raids and, of course, Avatar, the rest of the movies that are coming, the trailers for Oppenheimer and Barbie, which are exclusively out in theaters. We'll cover that very, very soon. But for now, this is the StubWatch. Now I'm going to need your help. I am very interested in making this wrap-up series as best as it can be on a weekly basis. So make sure to leave in the comments down below what news you want me to cover. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on so you can see all of the other episodes and new videos as soon as they come out. With that said, make sure to crack a smile, just ride the wave, and I'll see you on the next one.